Welcome to the Plant Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
The tranquil, soothing, natural sound of flowing water. Listening to it has been shown to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and generally relax your whole body. Combining the magical sound of cascading water with the beauty of plants, Hydria Life will now enable you to use those same health and well-being effects at home or in the garden. Get 10% off their rechargeable Hydria fountain at hydrialife.com. All you need to do is quote the code PLANT24 when ordering.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Plant Based Podcast. It's Ellen Mary here. So Michael and we are just back from a weekend away. Well, that sounds romantic, doesn't it? A weekend away at BBC Gardeners World Live. We've had such fun. So I was hosting over the 4 days on the houseplant stage. So I had the privilege of interviewing loads of amazing houseplant experts. I spoke to Frances Tophill. Nikki Chapman even came over and had a chat on the stage as well. We also spoke to Dr. Simon Pugh-Jones, MBE, who came and talked about wildlife conservation. He has been all over the world searching for orchids. Honestly, absolutely incredible. He was there with the Orchid Show, which was in the Floral Marquee. It was really fantastic. Joe Bagley, UK Houseplants, he came over. Every day we done 2 talks together. So we have a real good giggle by the end of the show because we're starting to lose the plot. I could never remember if I've asked the same question like today in that talk, or was the question yesterday, or it's just so funny. It's so confusing. But everyone who came along was really good fun. Audience was brilliant. Mike was doing talks on the main stage for British Garden Centres, talking about his his life in plants as well. Now he's gone off for a few days working. He's judging, and I am laying on my bed full of hay fever. So if any of you gardeners have hay fever, the pollen count is extremely high right now. I feel for you so much. I'm dosed up on antihistamines, eye drops and nose spray. So gardeners and hay fever just don't really match, do they? Anyway, because of the success of BBC Gardeners World Live, it was such a good show. There were so many beautiful borders, showcase gardens. Adam Frost's garden was really lovely. I absolutely loved the planting. I loved the colour scheme. If you went or look online, there's kind of like lovely kind of purples and greens, but then these beautiful like pastel-y yellow lupins and stuff. It was absolutely lovely. We decided that I would grab Kim from Dahlia Farmerama to talk about her beautiful border turned showcase garden. I'll let her explain all that to you, because we often see the gardens in photographs or online, or we see them when we go to the shows, but we don't really know what happens behind the scenes. How are they built? What's it like? What's it like when, visitors come along and talk to them about the garden, or even critique the garden? So Kim is here to tell you all about that. And before I get started, I'm just going to go off and blow my nose. Welcome to the podcast, Kim. Hiya.
Thanks, Ellen Mary. Thanks so much for inviting me on.
I got to say, Kim, you look radiant right now. It looks like you've been outside for weeks.
If radiant is a way to describe sunburn, I'm looking very weathered.
You don't look weathered. Honestly, you look glowing, like somebody who has just designed a showcase garden at BBC Gardeners World Live. That's what you look like. But before we even get into that, Kim, can you tell us a little bit, or our listeners, a little bit about yourself and what do you do and how you got into loving plants?
Well, I've always loved plants. I've always had a passion for horticulture, and that's come from a very young age. My mum's a gardener, and as long as I can remember, as soon as I could hold a trowel, I was out there helping her with the weeding and the planting and the growing, and just seeing that miracle of planting a seed and watching it spring to life. It's just fascinated me in my whole life. So I'm currently a dahlia farmer. So I grow dahlias in a field, just a small field, and also at my allotment and also in my garden. So in my garden and in my allotment, I grow dahlias which I love, but are not necessarily any good for floristry. And the ones at the field I grow to supply to myself as a florist, but also to other florists around Cambridgeshire where I live.
So this is why you're called Dahlia Farmerama online.
It is. It's why, when I joined Instagram, I didn't really think my name through. It's not a name I would choose to have now, to be honest, because it's kind of made me seem very niche, as if dahlias are the only thing that I know about and the only thing that I can grow, whereas nothing could be further from the truth. I grow everything. I grow vegetables and fruit and all different kinds of flowers as well. So, but I think it's because I'm so passionate about dahlias. They are my true love. So that's why I'm Dahlia Farmerama.
I think it's a really cool name. Dahlia Farmerama is like a funky name, and Michael would love it because he loves Bananarama. Sometimes he even texts me gifs of Bananarama. That's how much. So I think that he likes Dahlia Farmerama. Why are you so passionate about dahlias? I know you grow lots of other stuff, but why dahlias?
Dahlias kind of, I think they're the kind of flower that you don't choose, they choose you. I've grown dahlias for a long time. I've been growing them for almost 25 years now. And I was growing them when they were extremely unpopular and unfashionable. But they have had a revival. And I think that's in part because there's so many varieties. There's so many forms of them. You can have the decoratives, and you can have the cactus dahlias and the pom-poms and the bowls and the anemones. And there's so many different types of dahlia with so many forms, and then you get all those forms coming in every colour as well, and there really is something for everyone. And I'm a little bit like a kid in a sweet shop as well, because once you get a few dahlias, then you start looking online and you see a few more and then a few more and a few more, and before you know it, you've got enough varieties to fill a field. You've got to have them all, I think.
I'd like to fill a field of dahlias. I've got to say, I do have quite a lot on my allotment. I can't squeeze any more in. And I'd love to create another bed of dahlias, but I just don't think that there's space for them. I'm going to ask you a question now that is the worst question ever for a dahlia lover. And that is, do you have a favourite? I love how you looked like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the worst thing. Like literally you put your head in your hands then. Like when someone says to me, Ellen, what's your favourite plant? And I'm like, oh, come on, do me a favour. I can't choose.
I knew it was coming. As soon as you said it's the worst question you could ask, I thought that's the worst question. Oh my goodness. It depends. My favourite dahlia would depend you've got to think about, is it the form of it? Is it the colour of it? Is it the use? Is it the vase life as a florist? Is it is it long straight stems? What are you looking for? But setting all that aside, I think I can narrow it down to two. I don't think I have one standout. So there's one which is a beautiful ball dahlia, which is called Mary's Jomander, and it's a lovely sugar pink, and it's so strong. It's got lovely long stems, really, really beautiful, long vase life, and just pumps out the blooms. all season long, and it's just incredible. And I have whole vases just filled with that. That's wonderful. And then the other one, which is very, very similar to Mary's Germander, is one called Decara Superb, which is also a ball dahlia. And it's quite large, and it's not pink. It's kind of a peachy salmon pink, but it glows as well. It's really, you have to see it. It's beautiful. Yeah, stunning.
I'm going to have to look those up. Actually, I'm going to see if I can find them, or I'm going to ask you to send me photographs of them, and we'll put them on the podcast social media so people can see what you're referring to. Okay, well, you've said before that whilst you love dahlias, and obviously you're very passionate about those, you grow lots of other things, and you've really showcased that over the last few years with your show gardens. So tell us a little bit about where the inspiration came for designing at shows, and then we'll talk about BBC Gardens World Live.
So I can remember visiting BBC Gardeners World Live about 23 years ago, I think it was. I was trying to work it out the other day. That was my first visit. I went with my mum, who's really big into horticulture. And I remember we went on this, we went for the day, and it was just superb. And I remember looking at the show gardens and saying to my mum, I want to design one of these one day. And I just had this really strong sense that I would, even though my background wasn't design, it was science and maths. But actually the maths comes in really, really handy, because I love geometry. Geometry absolutely fascinates me. And that might be a reason why I love the ball dahlias so much, because they're really geometric, almost like mandalas, really. And and so the inspiration for it came when I just had an opportunity to create. I was talking to the people at BBC Gardeners World for the fairs, and they asked me if I would create something for the autumn fair last year. And obviously being a dahlia farmer, I thought, well, I'll do a dahlia exhibit. Maybe I could have a stand. Maybe I could do a dahlia cart. Maybe I could, have a bench with dahlias on, do some kind of, floral display, obviously with a background as a florist as well. And then I thought, well, no, why not? It was sort of niggling at the back of my mind about that thought I had at BBC Gardeners World Live all those years ago. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. So I designed a garden for the Gardeners World Live autumn fair, and it was a dahlia garden, and it was based on Fibonacci spirals, so it was very heavily mathematical. And I absolutely loved the experience. I loved the whole experience. So when the opportunity came up to apply for BBC Gardeners World Live, I thought I would throw my hat into the ring once again.
So you manifested this all those years ago. You said, I'm going to design one day, and you have two now, because this one, you actually entered a beautiful border, but it turned out to be even more than that. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, sure. So I was originally asked to do, when I was talking to them about doing a garden, we did discuss doing a showcase garden, but I said no, because I started a new job in January and I needed to get to grips with that. I said, it's going to be too much. I'll do a beautiful border. Would that be okay? And they said, yeah, that would be wonderful. We'd love you to do that. So the border was planned, it was designed, it was planned, and it was built as a beautiful border. And we did it in 4 days. And then the day before judging, I was talking to the guys there, and they said, actually, this could be a showcase garden. How would you feel about that? And do you want us to change categories? And I just thought, well, you know what, we're here, it's built, it looks beautiful, we believe in this project. My team had done a fantastic job, couldn't have done it without them. And but it was kind of scary, really, because I felt like it was a huge risk, because we instead of playing it safer where we were, we were now, being judged on the same criteria as people who had been on site for almost 3 weeks, had been using all the diggers and the excavators and the cranes and whatnot. And there was us without, a spade and a trowel and 4 days. But I said, you know what, let's throw caution to the wind, let's do it. And my team all said, yes, let's go for it. So it was a huge risk, but it paid off.
What a team. And what did you, it was a silver merit, wasn't it?
It was a silver merit, yeah. And to have achieved a silver merit in that category at a moment's notice, we're absolutely thrilled. We really are, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway. I think congratulations. Like, it's really, really amazing. Like, to have just changed on into a new category with barely any time and doing that is really extraordinary. So congratulations to you and to your awesomely fun team, because I was watching it in the days running up to the show where you were all building and everyone was like real community, helping each other out, doing lots of reels as well. And it just seemed like such a lovely environment to be in. I'm sure it wasn't without some pressure and some stress for sure, but it just looked absolutely wonderful. So congratulations to all of you for sure.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell us where the inspiration came from for the garden design? Like, try and describe it all to our listeners so they can visualize it whilst they're listening.
So the theme for Beautiful Borders, as we were when we entered and designed, was Share My Space. And I wanted it to be a space where you could share a physical space. So it's, there's space to fit. So we had some deck chairs on a patio area. But as well as that, I was thinking about, share my headspace, sit down with a friend, talk to me, offload, tell me your story, because, everyone has one. And it was kind of an idea to sort of share thoughts with people. So we had as part of it. So just backtracking a little bit, the garden was called On My Wavelengths, and there was a sine wave, because mathematics, obviously, there was a sine wave running through the garden. And there were 2 sine waves, and there was also some mathematics in the backdrop as well. And being on someone's wavelength is about connecting. It's about sharing stories. And I'm really lucky that in my day job, I get to work in the community, and I work with fantastic groups of people. And what I did was I gave everyone a log slice, and I got them to paint it with something, a picture or some wording that was meaningful to them. Because some of these people have had some really challenging life stories, life experiences, and they're all different backgrounds, all different challenges. And it was wonderful to see what they painted and wrote. They wrote such messages of inspiration, and they were saying, if anyone ever finds himself in this situation, this is what I want them to read, and I want them to be uplifted by this. They were sort of reaching out to everyone who was going to come to the show, and with their messages. And we put all of those messages together and pictures together as a backdrop. And the idea was that was the thoughts and the experiences of all those individuals coming together as the community that they are. And what's really lovely is that backdrop has now been disassembled, and it's going to be relocated to the community garden, where I'm very, very lucky to be the lead gardener. And so it's an installation that has been created by the community for the community, so they will get to enjoy it every single day, which is really lovely.
That's so wonderful. It's a lovely concept, and it came together so well. I really loved that part of the garden, and I was very fortunate enough that you let me step up and sit on the chair on there as well. And just looking at all the planting, the colours were lovely. It was really inspirational. It made you feel kind of very safe when you were sitting there. Like, you could literally just sit there, have a cup of tea and a chat with your friend. And I loved all the little details, and the devil's in the details, so they say, right? But, you had like gorgeous little succulent plants kind of like put in between like the paving stones, and then you had like the bee hotel in the tree. All these lovely little details are so important. Like, how do you even think of those? Like, how do you put those into a design?
Well, I was just thinking about, creating, biodiversity, really, like encouraging biodiversity. And, you just think, okay, what now? Because the garden is not just for the people, it's for the whole ecosystem. So what can I do, like you would in your own garden? What can I add that will encourage all these insects and pollinators and wildlife into this garden? Because I think a garden that's just created for its aesthetic can sometimes be quite sterile. But it's actually, it's a living, breathing ecosystem. That's what it should be. And it was absolutely wonderful because we, like you said, Ellen, we had the bee hotels in the stumps of the trees, and within 2 days we had bees going in and out of there. So that was lovely, because it's all very well saying, oh, we've done this for biodiversity, but to actually see that in action so quickly was wonderful. And of course we saw the bees on the flowers and the planting, which you mentioned as well, the colours. It was the idea, it was an inland beach, and the planting reflected a body of water, whether that was a lake or it could have been the sea, but it was a lake. And, we did blues and purples and greens for that body of water. And then we had oranges from like the geums and things, and some of the salvias, which just represented the aquatic life within that body of water.
Yeah, it was really lovely. And the colours were really beautiful. What I want to know is, was it all serene behind the scenes, or were there tears? Were there tantrums? Or was it all just very plain sailing? Do you like that? Sailing? Wavelength?
See what you did there? Yeah. On the whole, it was plain sailing, because everything had been planned with, you asked my team, somebody described me as military, not really in my manner, but in, how I had planned things. So everybody had a schedule every day. So we all knew, everyone who came to the site, because we had different people coming different days depending what needed to be done. Everybody came onto the site with a clear idea of what their task was, or what their tasks were. They all knew what everyone else was doing as well. And they had a clear plan of, when I've finished my task, I can have a look and see who else is working on what and where I can fit in and where I can help out. And everyone really did gel together as a team. We did have one day, I think it was the Monday. So we'd already done the Saturday and the Sunday, which has gone really well. And then on the Monday, I think it did get a little bit pressured. And I certainly was in tears that day. Not hugely, but it's just kind of you see it coming together, and you've got the emotions of it. It's looking beautiful, it's looking wonderful, and then it is quite stressful. There's a lot going on and a lot to process. But then the following day, it was just back to, and it was only a blip. It was only a little bit. So overall, it was wonderful, and it was back to business as usual.
I always wonder, after these beautiful show gardens are designed and created, and then you're there with them pretty much most of the time throughout the show, and the feedback is probably overwhelmingly positive. But every now and again, because I hear people do it, you'll hear someone say something that isn't quite what you want to hear. So I heard someone say on another garden over, not on a beautiful board or a showcase over where you were, saying, "Oh, isn't that a little bit messy?" Well, it was meadow planting, so that's what it's meant to be. But that's like a critique. It must be really hard to hear if someone says something when you've spent so much time planning it and it looks absolutely beautiful, but it's not to someone's taste, so they critique it. That must be hard. Did you ever hear anything at all?
Do you know what, Ellen? I didn't, and I hid myself among the crowds deliberately to see if I could hear anything, like any sort of constructive feedback, because I would have loved that. But what I was hearing was, "Oh, I really like that. Oh, I'm going to try that. Oh, look at that stream. That's a good idea, because that's a new take on a bee bath." And because it was just the faintest little trickle of water, and the idea was the bees could come down and drink from it. And and we had a succulent ladder as well. So as well as having them in the paving, we had this kind of like boat shaped ladder with the succulents planted for like barnacles on a boat. And I was thinking that's not going to be to everyone's taste, but it was just, I didn't hear anything negative, and I was almost disappointed, to be honest. I was hoping to catch somebody saying something. But if they did, I'm sure there were, people, it's not going to be to everyone's taste, and I'm sure there were some comments, but I didn't hear any.
Well, Kim, I don't know what there would have been, because it did look fantastic. It was all in. There were so many different elements of it that you could take home and do in your own garden. So I'm sure there wasn't anything. But I always love to ask that question because I literally heard someone say it about another garden. How does it feel like taking it all down afterwards, after you put all that work in and then it all has to come apart?
Do you know what? It was actually just business as usual. It was just, this is the task and let's just crack on and get it done. I didn't really have time, because you have such a limited time to take it down. I didn't have time to get sentimental about it. I felt that, the garden had served its purpose. It had showcased the different elements, but hopefully provided inspiration for people. We've got the photos, we've got the videos. In an ideal world, yes, it would have been lovely to have kept it together. But, the paving is going to, which was sponsored by Arbor, is going to Green Fingers charity. That's going to go to a hospice, which we're really, really delighted about. And the backdrop, obviously, is going into the community garden. And then the plants got sold off in the plant sale. So how many homes have now got these prize-winning plants in them? So, you can't feel sad about that.
No, that's true. That's a great way to look at it as well. So now you've designed 2 gardens at shows. What's next for you? Do you have any plans that you can share with us?
I don't have anything, any firm plans, but I do think I have been bitten by the design bug, and I can't wait. Even while we were there, I think it was sort of the 2nd or 3rd day of the show, I did actually think, gosh, I just can't wait to do another one of these.
Okay. So we definitely expect to see you doing another show garden at some point.
I would say so. I would really like to do another one, definitely. And maybe something that's bigger and a bit more adventurous and a bit more, hopefully I'll have more than 4 days to put it together.
One last thing, Kim, what is it about Gardeners World Live that you think that the public really enjoy, and designers as well? What is it about the show that's so good?
I think it's really warm and really friendly. I think that, the designers there's no, certainly that I saw, there's no egos. Everyone is out there talking to the public, discussing everything with everyone at every level. And it's just the warmth really of everybody, and just the inspiration as well. There's so much to see and so much to look at, and I think it's the people, it's the wonderful people as well as the wonderful plants.
It's packed full, isn't it? And actually, interestingly, the theme of sharing, I think that's what Gardeners World is all about. Sharing knowledge, sharing expertise, just sharing a day out with your family, like just all of it, sharing creativity. I think that's what that kind of show definitely exudes in my mind. So can you tell our listeners where they can find you online, perhaps your social media or website, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'm. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is @DahliaFarmerama, and it's a mixture of dahlia growing, and it's a mixture of plant information, and then there's a little bit of silly dancing there sometimes as well. A little bit of fun, a little bit of tongue in cheek, and entertainment, as well as getting the facts about plants and the love of horticulture across as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kim. I know that you're probably exhausted from the show, and I've just got you a couple of days after you've got back, but we really wanted to get you onto the podcast to tell us all about it, because we think that you are ace and we loved your garden. So thank you so much for spending some time with me, and congratulations again. I think you've definitely set a precedent for next year's designers.
Thanks so much. It's been a delight talking to you.
Thank you.
The tranquil, soothing, natural sound of flowing water. Listening to it has been shown to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and gently relax your whole body. Combining the magical sound of cascading water with the beauty of plants, Hydria Life now enable you to enjoy these same health and well-being benefits at home or in the garden. Get 10% off their rechargeable Hydria fountain at hydrialife.com when you quote code PLANT24 on ordering. That's PLANT24 on ordering.
The music for the Plant Based Podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.